Hello everybody and welcome back to Gaming on Caffeine. My name is Isaac and we are back playing some FTB Infinity for episode 43, and unfortunately I have a little bit of bad news to kick off today's episode, and that is that I've actually already recorded today's episode in its entirety. I sat down like 3 hours ago, started recorded the whole thing. It was like a 35-40 minute really long video. I know some people really like the long videos. Went to go edit my video, and the recording had just failed. Completely unusable. I spent like another half an hour trying to fix things, but it was all lost. So, now I'm back, and we're going to try and record a very similar episode again. Unfortunately, I already have all the stuff that we made during the episode, so I'm going to try and explain how I made it as we go along. And I'm also going to mention here real quick the derb that I did at the end of last episode with the iron and the mana steel. I tried to make some more of this elementium ingots, some more of these elementium ingots over here, by throwing regular iron through this elven portal, when in fact, you're supposed to throw the mana steel through the portal. So instead of using normal iron, which I was doing, I threw like a stack, and then I think it was like 6 blocks of normal iron through this portal, basically just voiding them. I might as well throw them into the trash can, but instead what we're supposed to do is grab 2 of these and do that. That gets us an elementium ingot. So, yeah, there we go. That's the little derp I made at the end of the last episode. And also, some of the stuff for this episode has already been made, so it's probably not going to be as long of an episode as it originally was. I do apologize. It doesn't happen all that often, but occasionally the recordings do break, and it is a bit of a shame. But today, I want to go over a really cool mod that, until, like, a few hours ago, I never used before, and that mod is the thermal, Energistics? Thaumic Energistics, that's what I'm on about. The Thaumic Energistics mod, which is kind of a cross-bridge mod between Thaumcraft and Applied Energistics, which, as soon as I heard that, I was like, that sounds awesome. I want to get, like, into that as soon as is humanly possible. So, basically, like I said, it's a bridge between Thaumcraft and Applied Energistics. Now, before we get started with any of the actual stuff here, I want to talk a little bit about research, because I know there are some people who like to follow along with the series and kind of do the same thing in their world, and this stuff requires a ton of research. I spent a couple of hours before I even recorded the first episode doing a ton of research here, and it's a bit of a pain from time to time trying to get all of this research done, because a few things, for example, this guy over here, the Infusion Provider, requires that you have Infusion Crafting unlocked, which is fairly self-explanatory there, but it also requires you to have the Magic Mirror research. Now, the Magic Mirror research is found under Artifice, it's over here at the bottom, but it doesn't actually unlock until you scan an ender pearl with your thermometer. Your thermometer. So, if you don't scan an ender pearl with a thermometer, you never unlock the magic mirror, and you never therefore unlock the Infusion Provider, which isn't too bad, apart from the fact that it doesn't tell you anywhere that that's how you unlock it. It's like a completely secret locked off thing. So I spent like ages scouring internet, like, where the heck do I get this magic mirror research from? And if you want to do this blind without, like, I guess cheating and using the internet, you would have to just go through and like scan all of the items to unlock all of the secret research. It's a bit of a silly mechanic if you ask me, but it's in the game. So yeah, that's a thing. Just a quick warning there. I will talk about any of those little like weird secret recipes as we go through here. But the first thing I want to talk about is our little AE system over here, much like with our Botania AE system and our BAE system. Geez, the amount of people that haven't got me for calling it an AE system. I'm sorry. Our ME system that we have over here is exactly the same. It's the same setup. Underneath here, we have another ME interface with a storage bus that allows us to put anything we want into this terminal. For example, we'll use this Salus Mundus over here. We've got 2 of those in there. If we go look in here and type in Salus Mundus, you can see we have 2 there. If we take it out of there, it is no longer in there. Nice. So again, like I say, we can put stuff in here, access it from there, but not vice versa. Pretty cool. And basically what the thermal, I want to call it thermal energistics, it's not. What the mod Thaumic Energistics is going to allow us to do is store all of this stuff here, so all of these, like Essentia that we have over here within our AE system, which, if you ask me, is pretty freaking cool. Now, the first thing that I went ahead and made here is this guy down here, the Essentia Storage, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I have absolutely no idea. And again, this was a weird one. It requires the Warded Arcana research in order to be unlocked. It doesn't tell tell you that, but the watered Arcania research is all the way over here, and the reason that you need that is if we go ahead and take a look inside the Digissentia storage, this is basically making the storage discs, so the applied Energistics storage discs, but instead of being able to hold items, they can hold Essentia. And for that, you're going to need a either 1K, 4K, 16K, or 64K storage component. You can see these are over here and here. We made this one over here. And then to make it into an actual cell, you need some Thaumic ingots, 2 of this watered glass, which is why you needed that other research. That unlocks you watered glass, which is made using normal glass, 2 great wood planks, and a zombie brain, as well as this guy, the 1K, 4K, 16K, or 64K storage component. And for those who don't know, Thaumic ingots, we hadn't actually made them before in the series, so I will just quickly mention that they are made by throwing 4 Procantio and an iron into a crucible filled with water. So basically all I did was threw like an iron in there, as well as I think some shards of some kind. Let me grab, I can't remember exactly which shard, but I think if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, and iron, that gets the Thaumic ingot, which you can then use however you like. Really easy stuff, really easy to get, very nice indeed. Once you have it, it looks something like this. We have a 1K Essentia storage cell. We do have some stuff in it, but just pretend for the time being that we don't. Again, like I said, already done this once, but basically this will go into an ME drive or an ME chest, just like any other disk would, and then to access it, we're going to need a new terminal. The terminal we're going to need is this guy over here, the Essentia Terminal, and what this is going to allow us to do is look at all of the Essentia that we have in our drives. So if we go ahead and throw this down like that, I will quickly show you how that is made in the Thaumonomicon here. It's made using a V-filter, a logic processor, an ME, some form of illuminated panel, as well as a diffusion core and a coalescence? I don't know, this core as well. And these are really easy to make. These are made using Quicksilver, and then either an entropy shard, an order shard, and a formation core, or an annihilation core, and that will get you those 2 different cores there, which you can then use to make yourself this guy here, the Essentia Terminal. And if we go ahead and look in here, you can see that right now, we have some Aqua, some Arbor, some Machina, some Permutatio, some Procantio, and some Vitrus inside of our drive. Now, if you didn't have anything in there, this would obviously show up empty, as it would if you, like when you first craft it, but we have some things in there. Now, how did we actually manage to get stuff in there? That's a good question. The next thing that we made is this guy over here, the Essentia Provider. This guy over here is a bit tricky to make. It's an infusion recipe. It requires an ME interface, 2 of these filtered Essentia tubes, which are made using an Essentia tube and a V-filter, as well as 2 Salus Mundis, which is made by smelting a balanced shard, which we have made before, and you'll know how to make if you've watched some of my previous Stormcraft stuff, as well as 2 water shards, and 1 of those, and 2 of these, I'm going to call them coal cores. The first 4 letters I said coal, and 2 of these coal cores. As you throw that on there, and then some of the trickiest bits was getting 64 Machina, as well as 32 Order, 32 Procantio, and 16 Permutatio. What I did is I used 64 levers in order to get that. Levers only contain Machina, so that was pretty good. I then used, I think, 32 order shards in order to get a 64 order and 32 Procantio, and then I used 8 Quicksilver in order to get the 16 Permutatio. We then did the Infusion Recipe, and that got us this guy over here, the Essentia Provider. And basically, this is kind of the key bridge between Thaumcraft and Applied Energistics. So if we were to put this here, basically, like I said, it acts as the bridge. So, the next thing that we went ahead and made was this guy over here, under Digissentia Transportation. We made ourselves an Essentia import bus, made using 2 water jars, 2 iron, a filtered Essentia tube, and a diffusion core. And basically what this allowed us to do, if we go ahead and grab, say, this jar full of Arbor really quick, because I know I'm not going to use any Arbor, we'll throw that down like that. And then if we stick down this little import bus that we have on the bottom, and hook it up to our system, you can see right now we have 84 Arbor. If we do this, that's going to allow it to start to pull stuff out of the jar. If you see at the top there, Whaler, and actually on screen, the little notification there, 41, 39, 37. It's pulling out 2 at a time down through the Essentia Provider into the AE system. And if we look over here, you can see that we are now gaining Arbor within our AE system, which I thought was pretty flipping cool. So essentially, what we could go ahead and do is go and pull get rid of all of these jars and just store all of our Essentia within our AE system, within these little drives. Now, each aspect, not each aspect, aspect. Each aspect takes up one of the Essentia types. You can see that you can only hold 12 different Essentia types in the drives as opposed to 63 in the normal drive, so you are kind of limited. You are going to need quite a few of these to get all of the Essentia types. I believe there are 55 in total, but you'll also notice that we only have 1024 bytes, obviously this being a 1K storage drive, and each one of the Essentia takes up 1 byte. So this would take up 64, that would take up 2, 1, 64, etc, etc, etc. So we would probably need quite a few of these drives in order to get like all of this stuff into here, or especially if we want to get even more stuff into there in the future. Now, the problem with having all of our Essentia inside our AE system comes to infusion crafting, because if you want to infusion craft, you need to have jars of the stuff nearby in order to actually complete the ritual, right? Now, the question is, does all of the Essentia that's in your AE system get used by the infusion altar? And the answer is not by default. By default, what it will do is it will just not work, basically. If you have all of your Essentia inside your AE system and you try to do an infusion crafting recipe, it won't work because you don't have the jars down. What you need instead is the next block that we have on our little list here. That is the Infusion Provider that we looked at earlier. This thing requires, again, 2 Salus Mundis, 2 of those cores, 2 air shards, another interface, and then 2 Essentia mirrors, which are made with another infusion recipe here. We did a lot of infusion crafting, which is just 3 iron, an ender pearl, and then a mirror glass. Mirror glass is made using Quicksilver and a glass pane in an arcane workbench. Speaking of arcane workbenches, we are going to jump around a little bit here. This guy was something we made as well, the arcane crafting terminal. This is basically made with an ME terminal, an arcane work table, and a calculation processor. When you combine them all up, you get an arcane crafting terminal, and basically, it's kind of what you'd expect if we stick that there. It allows us to do arcane crafting recipes inside the AE system instead of having to use what would have been this guy over here, but of course I had to pick it up to make the flipping terminal over here. But now, for instance, if we were to go ahead and grab our wand, which is in fact in our inventory, and if we were to throw that in there and do something like this, gold, and silver wood, you can see that it tells we're going to need 5.3 order and a 5.3 aqua to make the V filter. If we tried that in here, it just doesn't work. So this allows us to do the arcane recipes using all of the stuff from our AE system, which I thought was really cool. But back on track, if we go back over here, the Infusion Provider requires all this stuff, and in fact exactly the same amount of all the aspects down here: 64 Machina, 32 Order, 32 Procantio, and 16 Permutatio. And once all that is done, it is moderate, so by the way, be careful. Some things might drop off. In our case, we got there was a little explosion that kind of hurt us a bit. It was kind of weird, but in the end, we managed to get ourselves this guy over here, the Infusion Provider, which, if we go ahead and stick down right about there, will now, as long as it's near the infusion altar here, allow us to access all of the Essentia that we have within our terminal here for any infusion recipe at all, which, if you ask me, is pretty freaking amazing, because it means that we can just get rid of all of these jars right now, stick all of them in the AE system, and then it will just all get pulled right out of here, through and into the infusion altar, which I thought was pretty freaking awesome. So all we had to do now is just go ahead and just individually go ahead and just grab all these and start to fill them up like that. Let's go slowly go ahead and drag those down and empty it out. And the final thing that we need to do is in regards to the golem here, because the golem is the key to getting our stuff from physical items into these jars. And how do we do that if we're going straight into the AE system? Good question, random imaginary person. The way we do it is we go ahead and first of all we grab our Golemancer's Bell that we made a little while back, and we're going to go ahead and shift left click to pick this guy up, like that. And then we're going to go ahead and pick up these two. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and move these all the way down to the end here. Boom. And boom. Nice. And then we're going to go ahead and throw down the flesh golem. Like that. We're going to add the animation core of alchemy. We're going to grab our Golemancer's Bell. And we're going to right click on here. Shift right click. Nope. Right click on there. And then we're going to right click on the Essentia Provider. And now anything that we put in here, for example, let's see. What do apples? We haven't scanned apples yet. Wow. If we were to scan the apples, they contain Fames and Mesis, I think are the two there. I'm probably pronouncing those wrong completely, but we have neither of those in our system. And actually, I don't want either of those because that's going to take up some of our slots there. Let's instead go ahead and grab a lever if we have one. We do. Let's grab a lever. And that's got just Machina in there. And you can see we have Machina right there. We have 5. If we throw all 5 levers in, like that, as well as some charcoal to burn them, that should give us 5 extra machinists, and you will see that he's just instantly filling up and emptying out straight away. And if we look in here, we now have 8, 9, and 10. There we go. All of the levers got turned into stuff, and he can now really quickly turn all of the items that have been turned into the Essentia from the alchemical furnace over there right through into our Essentia Provider, into our AE system, which is pretty freaking awesome. If you ask me, it's going to save us a ton of time, but it does mean that we're going to have a big empty wall over here on this side now, because all of this stuff, all of these jars can get picked up. They are no longer of any use whatsoever, but I'm fairly certain we will find something else to do with them, something else to do with this wall later on down the line. But yeah, that's pretty much what I did throughout the whole of last episode. It took a lot longer during the actual episode because, of course, I went through, I made all the stuff, I did all the crafting recipes, I just made everything. We had to get rid of quite a lot of flux, all this stuff over here, and we actually got some illnesses relating to flux. But I guess, because this episode's probably going to be really short already, what I will go ahead and do is work on something else real quick that I kind of want to fix. Because as of right now, let me just go ahead and throw those jars in. Our AE system is pretty full. If we look right now, our AE system is on the brink of just being too full. Now, one of those problems is to do with the fact that we're still receiving these flipping broken swords and bows from our wither skeleton farm over in the nether. That's something we need to fix, but it's also due to the fact that now that we're on a server, the quarry is running all the time and bringing in a ton of stuff, which is filling up so many bytes. You'll also notice that we are now full up on 4K storage cells. So what I'm going to do is, between episodes, I'm going to go ahead and added another ME controller down here. We now have the second ME controller right there. And that's basically the reason I did that is because each side of the ME controller has 8 channels with normal cables and 32 channels with these dense cables. So adding a second controller, they do form into a multi-block. And now we can use any of the sides on both of these to grab either 8 or 16 channels. And I did this to grab, 8 or 32 channels. And I did this to grab an extra 32 channels, which I then, oh, where did you come from, T-Fox? What are you doing here? Get out of here. Get out. So what I did here is I went ahead and made some more of the dense ME cables from Ender.io and ran them all the way underground, all the way into this new area. Look at this. I went ahead and made just this big new room because we were kind of running out of space in our little base, as it were. But I moved the furnace down there, and we ran the cables all the way down and along to over here. So we now have 32 channels, almost exclusively. I think we got about 28 because I did use a couple of them for some other things along the way, like I think this is now hooked up using one of those 32 channels. But basically what we're going to do now is, instead of storing all of our stuff on these ME drives, we're going to go ahead and store them in barrels. Now, let's go ahead and quickly grab ourselves a barrel. You might be thinking, Isaac, why? We started out with barrels. We moved past barrels. Barrels are a thing of the past. Now, the reason we're going to use barrels is because barrels are pretty awesome and are very, very not cheap, not expensive, is basically the reason. So, let's grab ourselves a storage bus real quick. And what this is going to allow us to do we have everything? Not quite, but almost. And the things fall. Wow. This is what happens when the AE systems fall. You can't craft. You can't do anything. It just breaks. So we'll put you there. We are going to need another piston here real quick. So we'll do that, and we'll do that. And we don't have any cobblestone, which really doesn't surprise me. We used a lot of them for the levers there. But let's go ahead and grab our chisel, which is in our inventory. That's why it's not there. Let's do this and grab some cobblestone back. Do something like that. That's going to allow us to get a piston. And then we should almost be able to do something like this. But we're missing an interface. The interface should be easy enough to make if we have all the stuff, which I think we do. But I think one of our cores is in here. It is not. That's not true at all. My gosh, do we have any bows lying around? We do. Okay, there we go. That's one of the issues. Let's take those out. That should free up a little bit of space to actually craft some stuff here. Let's make an annihilation core, and then let's go ahead and make an interface like so, and turn that into a storage bus. Nice. Alright, so now what we can do with this is we can go ahead and we're going to stick this down all the way over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some normal cable. We're going to do this. We're going to put the storage bus there, and then on top of that, we're going to put our barrel. Now, by default, the barrel can hold 64 stacks of items, which is not a ton, but it's very easily expandable. I think we did it a few episodes back using our barrels for the saplings up on the roof. So, if we go ahead and type in Jabber, like so, let's grab a couple of these upgrades. We'll grab a structural Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 3, And we'll even do Mark 4, because we have quite a lot of diamonds now. And then, in order to use these, we're going to need quite a few of these storage upgrades, which are fairly, well, they're not expensive, they're just a bit of a pain to make. And I cannot believe that cobble is the thing that we are missing here. That is kind of insane. Do we have any cobblestone lying around anywhere? I don't think we do. I honestly don't think we do. We're not going to get any out of there either, because the quarry's set to destroy everything straight away. Well, just assume that at some point between episodes, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade our barrels to hold more stuff. And basically, the plan is to go ahead and grab things like redstone that are taking up a ton of space in our AE system in terms of bytes. And the reason is that we're ordering by number of items. Let's order that by item name for now. And let's get redstone. The idea is that we can just take all of the redstone kind of out of the system here and store it in these barrels. And that's going to free up a ton of space in the disk drives. I don't want coal in there. I want redstone. Make sure you go ahead and lock it to what you want. Double right click there to throw all of the stuff in your inventory into the barrel. Shift right click to lock it there. And now if we go look again in our AE system, we have all the redstone. We have 7,000 redstone again, which, if you ask me, is pretty flippin' amazing, because it means that now what I'm going to do between episodes is, for all of the stuff that we have loads of, I'm going to set up a big line of barrels along here. We're going to upgrade them so they can store like 128, 256, or even more stacks of items. So for things like iron that we have like 12,000 of, or coal, which we actually have nothing of because we're using it for our steam turbine downstairs. But for all of the ingots here that we have that are like 12,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, we're going to take all those, throw them into barrels, and free up so much space in our AE system for other stuff that we shouldn't have to upgrade this for quite a long period of time. And with that, I'm going to end this episode here, guys. I apologize, it was a bit of a short one. I will, between episodes, go ahead and fill all this in. Hopefully, you understand what I was on about there with Thaumic Energistics. I feel like I did rush that a little bit there, but we kind of had everything already. Basically, now, all of our stuff in here can be now stored within here. We can do our arcane crafting over here instead of in there. We can access all of our stuff. We can see all of the aspects we have in our Essentia Terminal, and if we do want to do any infusion crafting, all of the Essentia is just going to come out of here, through this block, up and into there, and it's going to be pretty cool. Between episodes, I'm going to go ahead as well as doing all the barrel stuff. I'm going to go ahead and move all of these jars here, empty everything out into our little AE system here. Probably going to have to make a few more 1K Essentia storage cells, but for now, guys, thanks for watching. If you did enjoy the video, episode, like. Hopefully next episode, the recording will work just fine and we'll be back to normal, but as always, if you did enjoy the video, episode, like. Tell me in the comment section down below. It helps out a ton, and I will see you guys next time.